Thank God it's still morning. Nice to see everybody in the room. Thanks for coming. How many of you were able to recognize everything on this video?
Everybody's unfortunate.
That means you're all ancient history.
They're coming back.
Oh, thanks God.
Thank you.
As Barry mentioned, the latest infection out there, and this time it's not software, it isn't some hacker. It's called Meltdown and Spectre, and it affects the three major manufacturers of your computers, the chip in your computer. So it's AMD, Intel, and ARM. Those are the three manufacturers. And it affects your Windows, your Mac, your iPhone, and as I said, this is hardware, not software, but there isn't a fix for the hardware problem. So the only way they can fix this is through software. If you're running an older computer, that fix will slow down your computer because it's not hardware, it is a software fix to a hardware problem. If you have a brand new computer, that slowdown will be so minimal that you won't notice it. But if you have an old one, I'm afraid you will notice a slowdown on the way your system operates.
How old?
If it's 5 years old, it's already considered ancient.
Okay.
Okay? Avast by now has already made the necessary changes in the registry so that Windows, Microsoft can make the update and update your system so that it can prevent the infection that's possible through this discovered breach. Remember, right now, there is no live infection that's taken advantage of the shortfall. This is being done as a preventative measure to make sure you don't wind up with an infection. But it won't take long after somebody's announced, oh, we found a problem, and this is how you can access it, that all the crooks jump on the bandwagon. The reason it's called Meltdown is because it basically disables the boundaries between low-level access and somebody who's got top-level access. Intel and the rest of the chip makers are using something so that they can go across and speed up the system, while that speed up also gives low-level people access to upper-tier protection. And it's because they can cross those boundaries that you're at risk. If you have an AMD chip in your computer, you're only subject to the Spectre part of that vulnerability. If you have an Intel chip, you're at risk on both of them. Okay, so in this case, having an AMD chip is to your advantage, but you still are at risk for a part of this. How do you update? Or should you be updating? Yes, the sooner the better, the less at risk you are once you update. And that update has to be done for your computers and your cell phones, because both are affected. One other thing that was just discovered, and it's now being used to spread ransomware, is SMB1, which, as you can see here, it's something that's used to share access to files and many other things across all things on your computer. In order to fix this vulnerability, you need to go to your control panel, then to Programs and Features. Next, on the left-hand side, you'll see something that's called Turn Windows Features On or Off. Click that, and once you click it, this will open up for you. Scroll down until you get to the SMB1. That needs to be unchecked. You'll probably find it pre-checked, because that's how it always was. That needs to be unchecked. Microsoft said that if you're running the very latest update to Windows 10, this should already be unchecked for you. I run the latest version of Windows 10, 1709, but it was checked. So don't take any chances, check it, make sure it's actually unchecked. That's what keeps you safe. Not finished yet with the bad news. WPA2 encryption, which is what I recommended last year, you made sure that you had to keep you safe when you're using Wi-Fi. And I now found out that that's always been vulnerable. But nobody discovered that vulnerability until October 17th of 2017. Now what you have to do is make sure, again, patches have already been sent out on all devices. Make sure you're up to date. Another reason for staying up to date, don't wait. The sooner you update, the sooner you'll again be safe. Smart devices keep getting smarter. Now my stove is asking me to speak into my salt shaker. And almost everything is part of the Internet of Things. He's now got GPS navigation built into. And all this points out is that if it's connected, it needs to be protected. Most people aren't aware of just how many things there are that are actually part of the Internet of Things. Anything that communicates with the outside world is part of the Internet of Things. And anything that communicates outside of your house, sends information out or receives information in, has to be protected. Internet of Things devices. Currently, there are 3 devices to every single person in the world. Man, woman, or child. And as you can see from the chart, that's going to gradually keep going up and up and up. Even toys are getting to be smart and are part of the Internet of Things. This is just one example. This one comes from Lego. You put it together manually, and once you've got it all put together, all the different things that you can do with that robot are controlled through the Internet. That means it communicates with the outside world. Now, before you ever buy a smart toy, do some research on the manufacturer. You want to make sure you have a manufacturer that has an excellent reputation. Don't just be guided by price. Usually, the cheaper the toy, the more information it shares with the outside world, not something you want. So don't be afraid to spend a little bit extra money for a manufacturer that actually concentrates on security. Most of these toys also have a default sign-in information. First thing you should do, as you do with anything that has a default, is change that default. The longer you keep it set on the default settings, the easier it is for somebody else to use that default setting and control whatever it is that you're trying to control. Also, make sure that your connections are secure. Your home network is what keeps you safe. If your home network isn't secure, you aren't secure. Talk to your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids about the importance of security. Kids nowadays don't care. I want to get online and I don't really care what I share and who cares. Well, they will eventually care when stuff that they share winds up biting them in the rear end, okay? And that goes on more often than we want to think about. The good news is that after all these years, older folks are now finally accepting technology. The bad news is that 30 is now considered older. I guess that makes all of us in this room dinosaurs. In this age of the Internet of Things, more and more devices connect via your Wi-Fi network. Knowing that all of these devices are connected securely becomes increasingly important. The Wi-Fi inspector, which is a part of all versions of Avast Antivirus, is one of the integral parts of Avast Antivirus that help you in determining if your Wi-Fi is truly safe and secure. The Wi-Fi inspector automatically scans all devices connected to your home network via wireless or cable connection. If it finds a problem, it lets you know what the problem is, and in most instances,
gives you step-by-step instructions on how to fix that vulnerability it may have discovered. Remember, your router is the front door to your system, making sure it's secure and anything connected via that router is securely connected is extremely important.
Most new cars now come with GPS built in. I'm still from the old age. I have a Garmin, and if it weren't for my Garmin, there are lots of places here in Florida I would never be able to visit. The first thing you do when you set up your GPS system is to put in your home address, because it's based on the premise that it can take you back home regardless of where you may be. The wrong thing to do is to put in your actual home address. My GPS is set up so that the home address is the substation of my police station closest to my house. And if somebody steals my car with the GPS in it, and they go to my house, I will already have called the cops and told them, expect this guy, okay? Remember, the crooks are getting smarter every single day. We have to outsmart them. Doing this, remember that that police station is close enough to my house that from there I can always find home. But the crook depends on the fact that, hey, I'm actually going to this person's house and then I'll be able to break in and clean him out. Yeah, well, he'll be able to break in right into jail.
It's time for us to start paying attention to our cars. We're treating our cars like we used to treat our smartphones. We didn't wipe them, we didn't clean them, we just threw them away. You don't seem to realize that you now sync your smart devices with your car. And your car has as much information as your smartphone. If that gets in the wrong hands, they'll know where you live. They'll know the distance from where your car currently is to your house. So pay attention to your cars.
When I picked up my rental car at the airport, first thing I did was to keep Bluetooth my phone with the car. But before I did that, I noticed there were 6 other phones that had been paired to that rental car. Now, if I was one of the nasty guys, there would have been 6 address books that I would have harvested and had a heck of a lot of fun with it. So if you ever rent a car, or if your current car is something you're going to be selling, make sure that before you get rid of the car, you delete anything that you may have paired up with the car. Just like you can add a phone, you can delete a phone, okay? And make sure that you remember to delete it before you pass that car on to somebody else. If it's a rental, before you turn it in, the day that you're going to turn it back in, delete your phone from that car so somebody else doesn't get a hold of your address book. Remember, when you pair it, it automatically adds all of your phone numbers and stuff, so it makes it easier to use it in the car. When you go to the bank to take out some money, be very careful. There are nice new cameras that are no bigger than the head of a pin that people mount just so they can get a hold of your sign-in, your PIN number. Before you go to take money out, kind of peruse that perimeter to make sure that nothing looks out of place. Also, the part where you swipe your card, make sure it's actually the one that's from the bank. If you grab it and tug on it, you can't hurt it if it's the genuine thing. If not, you'll have it in your hand. Same thing goes for when you're getting gas. Grab it, tug on it, because if it's not the one that's supposed to be on the pump, somebody else is skimming all of your information. Google Home.
Can you explain that again about the gas pump?
Okay, you swipe your card, you stick it in, you pull it back out. Well, that little thing that sticks out, they make something that slips over the actual one, which means they are getting that information, okay? What you do is you grab it
before you put your card in.
Before the card goes in. Just grab it and pull it. If it doesn't come off, it's the genuine article. But if you have it in your hand, you say, oh, wait a minute. This is the guy who would have stolen my information.
Bring it into the bank.
Google Home and Google Echo, two devices that I own. My wife happens to love Alexa. She doesn't do much with a Google, but Hey Google is probably the smarter of the two, but Alexa is the one that we use most often because she's more human than Google Home. People have asked me, well, how do I make sure this is all very, very safe? Well, if you want to be 100% safe after you buy it, just put it up on the shelf. Don't plug it in and don't connect it to the internet. Then you're 100% safe. You also have a device that's 100% useless. There is no such thing as being 100% safe with these devices. What you can do to be reasonably safe is, when not in use, turn it off. These devices work because they listen for the key word. Until Amazon Echo hears the word Alexa, it doesn't react. But it's constantly listening for that one little phrase, and it records everything that it hears. Now, it only records for a certain amount of time, then it throws all that stuff away because it hasn't heard the key word. But if somebody gets into your system, they can take what it records and now pass it along. That's the danger. Which of the two is the better of these two? You be the judge.
Hey Google, tell me a joke.
This might make you laugh. I once stayed up all night trying to figure out where the sun went. Then it dawned on me.
Alexa, tell me a joke.
When is a door not a door? When it's ajar.
Neither of the two will pass if they were up in the Jewish house. Avast is ready to protect things in the Internet of Things. Avast uses artificially intelligent behavior analysis of all data entering and leaving your home. So anything that comes in and everything that goes out is scanned to make sure there is nothing malicious. It is still up to you to make sure that you secure your router. As I said in the beginning, there are, well, I think we get into it in a second. One of the things that you should have on your laptop or on your smart device is called Pray. It's the one thing that needs to be on before you actually need it. If you haven't installed it and you now need it, it's too late. Pray keeps an eye on your devices and on your laptop. And if you happen to lose it or someone steals it, it can let you know where it is. It can let you know whether someone attempted to do something on it. Last year when I was down here, I had two computers with me. And when I went through the checkout, one laptop was on top, one laptop was on the bottom. And when I went to put the stuff back, I took the one out of the top tray, and then I just took the two trays and... Now, because I had Pray installed on that laptop, I knew where it was. It was at the airport, and I also knew nobody had tried to get to that. And I was able to contact the airport, and they sent it back to me. They even paid the postage for it. But again, if you don't have it installed before you have the problem, it's too late once you lose that device or someone steals it. It's basically the same as being prepared for a disaster with your computer before it actually happens. If you don't on a regular basis make backups, and then you have a problem because of an infection or because your hard drive crashes, it's too late. If you don't have a backup, when that computer dies, you're going to lose all of your personal information unless you have a backup. So being prepared for a disaster always has to be done before the disaster happens. Your garage door opener used to have one simple function. You push the button, it opened the garage door. Now we've got some smart garage door openers. You push the button, it opens your garage, and at the same time, It also deactivates your home alarm, making it easier for you to get in a house, which is nice if you're the one pushing the button. Not so nice if someone's stolen your car and they now have access to your home and your garage. When you get a smart device, treat it with some respect. It can be of great help. It can also wind up leading to a lot of hassles and heartache. How do you know that your Facebook is actually your Facebook?
Has your Facebook page been hacked? There's an easy way to tell. Log into your Facebook account. Once there, go to your settings. Next, go to security and login. Once that's opened, take a look at where you're logged in. Now, you want to see more detail because you want to check more than just the last 2 places from where you've logged in. Take a look at all of these. If they're familiar, nothing strange, then you're safe. If you see all kinds of addresses from where you've logged in, you don't recognize them, then someone else is probably signing in on your Facebook page, and it's time for you to take some critical action. Looking through my log here, I see some of the things that I had to check out. I have one here that's in New York, but when I looked at my calendar, guess what? I was in New York doing some Avast-sponsored security seminar, so perfectly safe. Once logged in, away from home. Stay safe, be free. I hope this helps.
It's a quick, easy check to make sure all access within Facebook is actually from you. If everything you see there is something you recognize, then it's you logging in. If you have strange addresses from different places where you've never been, or different countries that you've never visited, somebody else has hacked your Facebook page and is now spreading all kinds of stuff, and your friends will think it's coming from you, and you can see that it actually is not from you. That's the time you get off Facebook altogether and warn your friends.
Always go invisible on open Wi-Fi. You go to a cool coffee shop, you gotta Instagram your drink, so you connect to the free open Wi-Fi. Not a problem, right? Wrong. Everything you do online is now visible to hackers. Checking out your bank balance? They could be too. Doing some online shopping on your credit card? So could they. Don't take risks with your online security. Always remember to use a virtual private network. A VPN makes you invisible online by encrypting all your data, so your financial details and personal information stay completely private, and the only followers you'll get are the ones you wanted in the first place.
VPN hides your location, can be used to hide your location, or can be used in the case of a movie that may only be playing in London and you're here in the US, but you have a blockout. You can use your VPN to place yourself in Great Britain, and you now have access to that movie. That's one of the things you can do with a VPN. The one that I use is from Avast, but it's not a free product. It's free to me because it's Avast's fault that I have to travel and visit all the hotels all over the place. McDonald's, Starbucks, the hotels you may be staying at, those are called open Wi-Fi because you don't control the access. And anything you do on those open networks can be intercepted by someone else. So that's the wrong place to do your banking and your shopping. Since I do a lot of usage of open Wi-Fi, I still have a life, I still have bills that have to be paid, but I use a VPN. And with a VPN, anything that I do is fully encrypted and doesn't get unencrypted till it gets to its destination. So if someone intercepts that information, they're going to get encrypted information. They don't have the key, they can't unlock it, so it's total utter garbage to them. It's like CryptoLocker, which totally encrypts everything, only in this case, the person intercepting it winds up being locked out because they don't have the key, okay? That's one of the good things. They now recommend that even on your home network, you use a VPN to encrypt everything. That's one way to stay safe. If you don't want to pay for a VPN, you have one option. Open the Opera browser. Happens to be an excellent browser. It's been around for many, many years. Once you install the browser, then go into your settings, go down to privacy and security, and once you get there, scroll down until you see the box for VPN. This, by default, is unchecked. Once you check it, then this logo up here will change from red to blue. Blue means everything you do within the browser is 100% encrypted. If it's red, it means it's not turned on and everything you do within the browser is not encrypted. This is one way to get VPN for everything you do within the browser, totally free of charge. Some things you should be aware of to help protect your identity. Number one, your stuff at home. Anything that has any private information on it, before you throw it in the garbage, put it through a shredder. Many people just take the stuff that they get in the mail, not important, throw it in the garbage. There are people out there that collect garbage. They sell the information they harvest from that garbage. So if you've got any kind of personal information, put it through a shredder. They're very inexpensive. Your documents at home should either be in a safe in your house, and if you don't have a safe, then get a safe deposit box and keep them in the safe deposit box. You should not have important papers laying around in your house, because if somebody breaks in, they now have your important papers. Don't volunteer personal information. If someone asks you a question that you have to answer, only give them the information they actually asked for. Don't volunteer extras. The guy from Microsoft who calls you to tell you there's a problem with your computer isn't your friend. He also isn't from Microsoft. Anytime you get one of those calls, you know the ones I'm talking about, don't engage them in conversation. They now record everything you say, and they hope that you'll give them enough information for them to be able to purchase things. Once they get a hold of enough information, they can use that information to start making purchases, and they will dissect all the things you say and actually use your voice to make those purchases. If you then deny the fact that you've ever made the purchase, it's kind of hard to do that if they play it back and it's in your own voice. Make sure that when you install something new that you check the security settings. Most security settings are not there to help protect your privacy. They're there for the product to make as much money for the company that made it as possible. On credit, knowing your score helps you stay secure. For protection, I recommend using layered protection, which means using more than one tool to help keep you safe. By law, you're entitled once per year to a free credit report from each of the 3 major credit reporting companies. But what you should be doing is to stagger your request for that report. In January, get your report from Equifax. Then in May, get it from Experian. And in September, get it from TransUnion. That way, once every 5 months, you'll get a fresh credit report, and if something's going on, you'll know about it. If you request the report in January from all 3 of the credit reporting companies, you'll wind up with 3 reports, all containing just about the same information. So stagger it and stay up to date. If you've had your identity stolen, the folks to contact are idtheftcenter.org. It is a nonprofit. They don't charge for their services. The only thing they do is help people recoup who've had their identity stolen. idtheftcenter.org. Now, you could be using a service like LifeLock, and they say that they'll protect you, and if your credit or your identity is stolen, they'll spend up to $1 million to help recoup. What they don't tell you is that you're paying for a insurance policy. That's actually what they're selling, is insurance. If you want it a lot cheaper than what LifeLock offers, contact your homeowner's insurance, because they sell protection against identity theft. And it'll be an awful lot cheaper than paying LifeLock. LifeLock, not that long ago, also paid $1 million because of false advertising. But they're still running the ad because they're still making lots and lots of money. People don't know. The ad sounds very, very convincing. As most of you know, Equifax was just hacked, and what was stolen was almost half of the country's personal information. They gave away names, addresses, birth dates, social security numbers, and in some cases, even driver's license information. This was the largest breach in U.S. history. It probably will not be the last time that something like this will happen. If you happen to be one of the people who's had their information stolen, you are now candidates for identity theft. And to protect yourself against identity theft, the best thing you can do is to freeze your credit. Freezing your credit means that no new loans, credit cards, mortgages can be made in your name. If you place the freeze on your account, you, of course, can reverse that freeze. But once the freeze is in place, no one, even a person who may have stolen your identity, can make any loans in your name. And the main reason for stealing someone's identity is exactly that. Make loans in their name, get credit cards in their name, they get billed, and the thief winds up with the benefits. Here you have the phone numbers and the websites of the 3 major credit reporting companies. You'd have to contact all 3 of them and put a freeze on your credit to prevent anyone else, including yourself, from making new loans. When you place a freeze on your credit, you'll have to make up a PIN number, and it's that PIN number that you'll be using when it comes time to unfreeze your credit. Therefore, remember that PIN number. If you don't know it, you won't be able to unfreeze your credit. Now, freezing doesn't mean you can't use what you currently have. So your credit card, the mortgages that you have, all of that stuff, they stay just as they are right now. You just can't extend anything or make anything new. To clarify a little bit, the PIN number makes it easier to unfreeze your credit. If you don't have it, you can still unfreeze it, but be prepared to answer 1,000 questions because they have to verify that it's actually you. If you have the PIN number, that makes it nice and easy. Just like going to the bank, you can still withdraw money without knowing your PIN number, okay?
Should you use 3 different PIN numbers, or?
You could. Just, that makes it that much harder for you to remember.
Do they give you the PIN number or yours?
That has changed. Originally, you had to. Now, I think they are giving you a PIN number. They're assigning one to you.
So then you would want to change.
But it's still the same thing. If you don't have that PIN number, you're going to go through a hassle trying to. And remember that once frozen, you can't do anything new either. You have to unfreeze. Now, the other thing is, there is a slight charge for placing a freeze, and there's another slight charge for unfreezing. But it's a small charge, and the amount changes from state to state. There are also some states that don't have anything as far as a charge goes. It's totally free.
And your PIN number, how many numbers can you use?
4 numbers is what they give you. Yep. Something you should put on your computer before you actually start using your computer, and that's called unchecking. Unchecking does exactly what its name says. It unchecks any garbage that may come along with a good program. Many programs make money by installing garbage, and that's what they get paid for. And garbage are things like browser redirects, toolbars, pop-ups that come up all over the place, okay? Unchecking will automatically uncheck those things and prevent them from getting to your computer. Unchecking.
Is that an app?
No, it's a program for your computer.
Where do you get it?
At the end of this, I share one simple link, copy it, and it'll have all the information. If not, I also send a follow-up email to my buddy over there, who then will pass it along to all of the club members. If you aren't a club member, good reason to sign up. Anytime you insert a USB device, flash drive, external hard drive, memory card from a camera, there's a possibility that that device will have an infection on it. Make sure that that infection never ever gets to your computer. It's designed to work together with your antivirus program. This checks the boot sector and certain parts on that external device to make sure that it doesn't have an infection. Your antivirus program by default will check anything you open on that device. If your antivirus program were set up to check every part of that device, I have some USB drives that are 128 gigabytes in size. If I plug that in and I have my antivirus set to check every bit of that external hard drive, I can come back half an hour later and maybe I'll get a chance to use that external hard drive, okay?
Question here for Mike, can you stand up please? Thank you.
I'm question about the antivirus software. Is there any difference between the ones that you pay for?
We're going to get into that in a couple of minutes, okay? So have McShield installed on your system, and it will make sure that anytime you install an external device, it's 100% safe, and any infection on it will not get to your system. Again, don't go crazy trying to copy these things. Get the link at the end, and you'll have access to all of this. CCleaner was designed to clean up all the crap you accumulate when you visit the internet or use any of the programs on your computer. CCleaner can also be used as a registry cleaner, but unless you're an expert at cleaning the registry, the suggestion is that you leave the default settings exactly the way they are. Default settings are 100% safe. If you start making all kinds of changes, you could wind up with a computer that will not boot. CCleaner backs up the registry before it makes any changes. But if you've made the wrong change and you now can't boot your computer, you also can't get to the backup that was created. So leave the default settings, those are safe. Malwarebytes Anti-Malware, an excellent companion to your antivirus program, regardless of whose antivirus program you happen to be using. Now I still use it on demand. I don't let it run in the background, especially the latest version of Malwarebytes. It's gotten to be a little bit of a system hog. So I run it once a month to make sure that nothing's gotten to it. I don't allow it to run constantly. Or the free version, right. I have the pro version, I still turn it off. I don't let it run constantly, okay? This is the antivirus program I've used since 2003. Back in 2003, I was using Norton. Rephrase it, Norton was using my computer and occasionally gave me access. That's when I did some research, stumbled on Avast, and it's been there ever since. It is light on system resources and has done an excellent job of keeping all of my computers and many other computers that I install totally safe. Yes, on occasion it will ask me to upgrade. Simple answer is, unless I want to spend money, no, because the protection that you get in the free version is exactly the same as the protection that you get in the paid version. The difference between free and paid is simple. If you want a firewall, a spam blocker, all kinds of other goodies, you're paying for the goodies, not the protection part. That's the same. So if that pop-up comes up, you have one of two choices. Either wait the 20 seconds that it takes for it to automatically disappear, or click on the X in the upper right-hand corner to shut it off. One of those two. To me, by now, when one of those pop-ups comes up, and it's not very often, I don't even see it anymore. It's like having bought a house right next to the railroad track. When you first move in, it's keeping you up at night. After it's done it for umpteen, you don't recognize or realize that the train is even going by your house. The same goes with pop-ups. I don't see them. I've gotten blind to them. If you install Avast, this is what you can expect.
The internet never sleeps. Morning, noon, and night, millions of people are working, playing, and connecting online. While the internet grows, serious cyber threats are growing along with it. Avast makes the world's most popular internet security software. And we built the largest global cybersecurity network to keep you protected, no matter the place, whatever the time of day. We analyze data from our 400 million users and use next-generation detection algorithms based on artificial intelligence and machine learning to detect and block threats in real time, anticipating and stopping attacks before they do damage. Every month, Avast prevents over 1 billion malware attacks around the world, all without ever slowing you down. Whatever you do, wherever you connect, morning, noon, or night, Avast keeps you protected online.
Since Avast has over 400 million users, it doesn't take very long when something new is out there that the protection for that latest discovered infection winds up to be on our systems. Even in the free version, updates happen constantly. As long as you're online, you get streaming updates, and there are several hundred updates per day. The packets are so small that you never know it happens, but you're constantly updated against the newest discovered vulnerabilities. Now, the question is, can something free be better than something you pay for? AV Comparatives. This is the latest report from AV Comparatives. There's Avast and AVG, and Avast now owns AVG, so if you're running AVG, you're actually running Avast. If you're running Avast, you're actually running a combination of Avast and AVG. Avast has taken the best of both and made them into one product, but right now they're still both Avast and AVG. The outside wrapper may look different. One will say AVG and one will say Avast. The inside part is the same thing. Okay? The best of the two. There are its ratings. That's free. Here are your paid boys, and there are their ratings. I don't have to go any further than that. Yes, something free can be better than something paid. Hope that answers your question. For those of you that run an Android device, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone, they need as much protection and probably more than your computer. Most people have more personal information on their phone than they do on their computer. And if it gets hacked, all that personal information is what somebody will steal. For those of you that have an iOS device, Apple takes the position that there are no infections for people that have an Apple iOS device. So they don't offer and don't allow third-party antivirus programs. Plain and simple. If you have an iOS device and you wind up with an infection, wait a little while, they'll come out with an update to the operating system that takes care of that infection. Unfortunately, once you got hit, that's it, you've gotten hit, okay? There is no third-party antivirus. Yes?
There are apps that can be used as VPNs on the iOS?
Correct, but not, you can use Avast's VPN on your iOS device, okay? But not an antivirus program, they don't allow it. For those of you that have an Android device, this is what Avast's product can do for you, and again, totally free of charge.
Please listen carefully.
How to protect your phone and tablet. With so much valuable data inside, our phones are magnets for all kinds of hostile software. Each day, Avast detects 12,000 mobile malware samples. And you are vulnerable when you least suspect it, like when you're playing games. So if you don't want to be spied on and want to keep your data safe, Try Avast Mobile Security for free. We already have 2 million malware samples locked up in our mobile database. That's because we run a powerful virus scan to stop hackers in their tracks. An antivirus engine automatically looks for infected apps, trojans, and memory card content. It even tests new apps to make sure they're safe before you use them. And Wi-Fi security always keeps your connection safe no matter where you connect. Letting you know if the network you're connected to is unsecure, weakly encrypted, or otherwise unsafe. You can even lock your apps to keep your app content safe from children, thieves, and cheeky friends. Filter incoming calls and texts, block specific numbers from calling or messaging you, and avoid any awkwardness. It's easy to use complete protection for your phone and your tablet. The cost? What cost? It's totally free. Download Avast free mobile security directly from Google Play. I couldn't have said that better myself.
You run into an internet access problem or a problem with your computer and you just simply can't figure out what's causing it, here's a recommendation for a simple fix.
Hello, IT? Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Sounds like a joke, but it isn't. Sometimes things build up and the only way you can clear them is to totally disconnect that device from electricity, whether that's your computer or your router. If you have internet access problems, or you have a problem with a computer that you cannot solve, first thing to do before you send it into the shop is to totally disconnect it from your wall. If you have a laptop, it means you have to turn it over and take out the battery. Then you wait 30 seconds to a minute, plug it back in, and voila, 8 out of 10 times your problem will be solved. I can tell you this is the very first thing that the shop will do when you take it in for repair. Now, if they call you back 10 minutes after you brought it in to let you know that your computer's been fixed or your laptop's been fixed, guess what? You could have done this at home and you could have saved yourself $179.95. You will have made the person at the shop very, very happy. I'd love to do these kind of fixes all day long. I'd be a millionaire. So before you ship it out, just try this. Only takes 5 minutes of your time. April 2018, we are going to get a new Medicare card. And guess what? No Social Security number on that card. Uncle Sam has gotten smart. They finally figured out it's not safe to have the Social Security number on the Medicare card. The only problem is, by now, with all the breaches we've had, the crooks already have our Social Security number. But I guess it's better late than never. We've now come to a fork in the road. For all of you who've always wondered what is cloud services all about, this should answer that question. And no, God is not protecting your files up there. Cloud services actually mean that the files that you're sending off someplace, they're going to some server farm, someplace in the world. They don't even have to be in this country, okay? But it means instead of it taking room on your hard drive, it's on somebody else's hard drive. How safe is it? I guarantee you that they spend an awful lot more money protecting those files than you and I ever will. They certainly spend a lot more than I do, because I don't spend any money. I would, of course, recommend that when you use cloud services, that you use cloud services from reputable places. I wouldn't use a fly-by-night because they're going to give me 100 gigabytes, whereas the good one is only going to give me 15. I personally pay $2 a month to Google to give me 100 gigabytes on top of what I already have. I don't use anywhere near that, but if I ever decide to go nuts and back up a whole computer onto the cloud, I don't know why I would, I have the room to do that. I finally figured out what you use that. It's not recommended that you sit back there when somebody's doing 80 miles an hour. But that's what it was designed for. If you've been on the internet long enough, sooner or later you would have run into this 404 page not available or page not found. It's embarrassing when that happens on the internet. It's a lot more embarrassing when it happens in the John. The older we get, the fewer things seem worth waiting in line for.
I agree, absolutely.
Especially if you wait long enough, you probably forget what you waited in line for in the first place. Do I really need to take this medicine for the rest of my life? I'm afraid so. And I'm wondering how serious is my condition since there are no refills. I hope the doctor made a mistake. I now know why they call this ICU. That also brings us to the end of any information in this presentation. If you learned something today, please let Avast know about this. This is how these presentations continue. If you expect me back again, Avast has to know that they're spending their money wisely. I don't work for Avast. I don't get a salary from Avast. The arrangement I have is that from the second I leave home till I get back, they pay every dime of my expenses. Sometimes I do technology at sea conferences, and when that happens, I need assistance. My wife has to come with me to help me, and Avast gets to pay the bill. I'm hoping that Sam will soon come up with another technology at sea conference. And when I see him on the 16th, I'm going to stress that point.
Bob, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.